Exam in exactly 3 days? Look, I know you're probably staring down the barrel of your Malaysian local government paper, feeling the pressure and wondering how on earth you're going to memorize all these dense administrative concepts before time runs out. Well, take a deep breath. Let's dive right into this explainer and get you those full marks. I'm going to be your study buddy today, and together we're cutting out all the academic fluff. We are focusing purely on the core frameworks you need to understand, memorize, and confidently write down the second that exam clock starts ticking.
So here is our high-octane agenda for today. The objectives of local government, their core characteristics, understanding sovereignty, obligatory versus discretionary functions, and finally, the 4 key functions. This is your exact roadmap to conquering the specific questions your examiner is going to throw at you. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. Objectives of local government. Let's start with the foundational purpose and tackle question 1 straight on. Because, really, if you understand why these councils exist in the first place, everything else just naturally falls into place.
Okay, when you see this exact question on your paper, asking you to discuss the 4 objectives, keep in mind the examiner isn't looking for a vague, wandering essay. They want 4 precise hits that prove you deeply understand how this third tier of government actually improves the community.
So you're going to want to anchor these 4 steps to your memory right now. First, they promote national unity. How? Well, through grassroots programs like Kongsi Raya celebrations that intentionally bring different ethnic groups together. Second, they strengthen democracy. This means giving everyday citizens a direct voice through town hall meetings. Third, freedom and autonomy. This is about having the financial power to collect local assessment taxes so they aren't just waiting around for federal approval. And fourth, effective administration. Because they're physically right there in your neighborhood, they can fix a pothole or maintain a park way faster than the distant federal government ever could. To lock this in, just remember the acronym UDAE: Unity, Democracy, Autonomy, Efficiency. Write UDAE in the margins as soon as the exam starts, and you've already secured those points.
Moving right along to Section 2, Core Characteristics. I actually have a massive shortcut here to reduce your cognitive load, which is huge, since you only have 3 days left.
Check this out. It's a massive 2-for-1 deal. If you look really closely at the past papers, question 2 and question 4 actually test the exact same 4 traits. You literally only need to memorize 1 master list to answer 2 completely different exam questions. Work smarter, not harder, right?
So whether the examiner asks you to explain the concept or simply identify the characteristics, this upcoming master list is your definitive cheat sheet. Here are the 4 non-negotiable traits: acting as a body corporate, ruling a definite territory, exercising autonomy, and making bylaws. Now, to get the absolute highest marks, you need to tie each of these to a concrete example. For definite territory, mention how Majelis Bandaraya Johor Bahru only has jurisdiction inside the Johor Bahru city limits, nowhere else. For autonomy, remind them that councils can collect taxes and hire independent staff. For bylaws, point out that they can set operating hours for local mamak stalls. The acronym for this one, BTAB. Big towns are better. Body corporate, territory, autonomy, bylaws. BTAB. Let's actually zoom in on that very first trait for a second, because this is a brilliant way to score top-tier marks. Drop this exact legal definition. Body corporate basically means the local council is a recognized legal identity. They have an official seal and what's called perpetual succession. That's a magic legal term for your examiner. It just means the council exists continuously no matter which politicians come and go. Most importantly, it means they have the authority to sue and be sued. So if a contractor completely botches a neighborhood drainage system, the local authority doesn't just write a strongly worded letter. They can legally sue that contractor for breach of agreement.
Okay, Section 3, Understanding Sovereignty. Let's see how this all builds into question 3. Because if a local council can make its own laws and sue people, does that mean they're basically independent, sovereign rulers?
Hard truth time. The absolute most crucial point you must write down clearly is this: local government does not possess sovereignty, none at all. In Malaysia, sovereignty belongs exclusively to the federal and state governments. To absolutely prove they lack sovereignty, you need to cite the ultra vires principle. Memorize this Latin term. It translates to beyond the powers. Local councils can only perform duties specifically authorized by the Local Government Act 1976. If they try to invent a law or impose a tax that isn't in that act, their action is ultra vires. It's immediately illegal. They are entirely tethered to the laws written above them.
Dropping the phrase Local Government Act 1976 right next to ultra-vires is pretty much guaranteed to make your examiner smile.
For the exam, strictly list these 4 undeniable relationships. Number 1, they have zero sovereignty bound by ultra-vires. Number 2, they are created purely by statute, meaning they only exist because an act of parliament says so. Number 3, they are entirely under state government jurisdiction, so the state heavily supervises them and appoints their members. And number 4, this is the ultimate proof of their lack of power. A local council can literally be completely abolished, resized, or reorganized by the federal parliament at any time.
Section 4. Obligatory versus discretionary. Next up is Question 5, which tests your ability to tell the difference between the mandatory, essential duties a council faces and the optional perks they can provide.
This is your classic foundational comparison question. You need to cleanly contrast what a council absolutely must do by law to keep society from collapsing versus what it can do if it happens to have some surplus cash lying around.
Take a mental screenshot of this table, and let's compare these across 4 key features. First, their nature. Obligatory functions are essential survival services. If garbage isn't collected, disease spreads. Discretionary functions are nice-to-have development projects, like a decorative fountain. Second, finance. Obligatory services get direct budgets from higher up because they simply cannot fail. Discretionary projects, they only happen using leftover surplus funds. Third, supervision. Essential health services are directly and rigorously monitored by the state, while a new recreational park is only indirectly supervised. And fourth, priority. Waste collection is mandatory and high priority. Beautification is strictly optional and low priority. Finally, Section 5, the 4 key functions. Let's tackle Question 6. We know their objectives, their power limits, but what are they actually doing out on the streets every single day? The examiner expects you to categorize their daily, on-the-ground operations into professional buckets. Don't just write, "they pick up trash." You need to group these tasks to show you really get the big picture.
Anchor these 4 specific functions to memory. First, service functions. This is the highly visible stuff, fixing streetlights, collecting garbage, maintaining public toilets. Second, regulatory functions. Their enforcement power. They approve commercial buildings, monitor illegal parking, and license businesses to maintain public order. Third, representation functions. They legally act as the voice and advocate for the community. And fourth, community planning and coordination. They organize vital public consultations before, say, a massive new shopping mall is allowed to be built right next to your house. So lock in this rhythm: service, regulation, representation, planning.
And just like that, you are officially ready. We've distilled those incredibly dense notes down to the exact frameworks you need. You've got the 4 objectives, UDAE. You know the 4 characteristics using BTAB, acting as a body corporate with perpetual succession. You clearly understand the ultra-vires principle severely limiting their sovereignty. You can cleanly contrast obligatory waste collection against discretionary park building, and you know their 4 daily operations. You have the complete blueprint.
So, go review the structures we just built together. Write out your mnemonics the second you sit down, and you are going to absolutely crush that exam in 3 days. But I will leave you with this final, deeper thought to ponder once all the exam stress is totally over. If local councils, the very institutions most directly responsible for our daily community lives, exist entirely at the mercy of higher state and federal powers, who truly holds the power in your neighborhood? Good luck on your paper, keep this structure in your mind, and you are going to do brilliantly.